Here is what we have so far on the Appliqué little flower quilt. We have 3 corner flowers, 1 center flower, and 1 spot that needs a flower. Oh, hey, good morning. My name is Lori. Welcome to We Are Quilters. Let me finish up this block. It's a bonus block that I'm trimming up. One of those little pinwheel triangles that I was working on. Isn't that cute? It's 2 inches, so it'll finish at 1.5. Cute nonetheless. I've got quite a little pile of them here, and it took about 10 minutes to do the little pinwheels on the back. Anyway, I digress. Today we are going to do our last machine applique. We are going to use my embroidery machine. I know that some of you have an attachment that turns your regular sewing machine into an embroidery machine, but when I bought this little embroidery machine, I didn't want that. I wanted a separate machine because I had lots of other machines like my little white Singer and larger Singers and, well, just a variety of machines that I didn't need one that could be transformed and cost a couple extra $1,000. So this is an embroidery machine only. You can use the same techniques, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. So come on, let me get the machine out and ready now that you're here. This machine lives covered up here behind my little white sewing machine because it doesn't get used as much as I would like. Not nearly as much as I used to. I used to do stockings for every kid on our whole team at Christmas time. I used to make a birthday bag for every student in my class that had their name and some little motif on the front. It was just a little 5x5 drawstring bag, and it had certain things in like pencils and pens and a little tiny candy bar and coupons. Coupons for cool stuff like sit on a stool for a day. Things that didn't cost me any money, but they loved those little birthday bags. But now I don't need to do this, so I don't use this machine nearly as often as I should. Mostly for labels, for quilts. So give me a second, let me uncover it and pull it out. With applique, it doesn't matter what kind of applique you're doing. I find that preparation is the biggest part of doing any kind of applique, whether it's by machine or by hand. And once you overcome the I don't want to do the preparation, you can create wonderful applique of any kind because it's just sewing, like I've said before. So the applique with this machine, that the preparation, it's all in the stabilizer. And I have 2 favorite kinds of stabilizer, and any brand works. It doesn't really matter, even though there's a little bit of difference in brands. My favorite is the Sticky Plus. It's like putting contact paper inside your hoop, and you can embroider on anything that the needle will go through. So this is the one that I use when I'm embroidering on a tie for someone that needs a fancy schmancy tie, or anything that doesn't hold up well to the iron-on stabilizer. This works really well for. Now cottons, and doing it on a quilt block, I'm going to use the iron-on tearaway stabilizer, same company. But you iron it on the back. It's a lot like freezer paper, but it has a little bit better sticking power than freezer paper. And then you just tear away whatever's not included in the design. So this is what we will be using today. And there is a cost difference. This is a little less expensive than the sticky kind, but they both work very well. So let me get some prep work done and get a piece of this iron on the back of the quilt block for today, and then we will get to making. Okay, this piece is now ready to hoop. You can see that the little bit of a corner is pulling up, and it even looks a lot like freezer paper. But like I said, it's not quite as, it's more non-woven interfacing than freezer paper is, of course. So let me hoop this up. And it is bigger than the square that we will end up with. And when you machine embroider, you hoop backwards. To hand embroider, you pull your fabric to the top. To machine embroider, you push your fabric to the bottom, so it lays on the bed of your machine. And all machines are different. The last one I had and wore out, the arm was on the inside, and whatever you were embroidering was out here to the outside. This one is a brother. The last one was a brother too. And it took me a lot of years to wear it out so that the timing would no longer, I mean, I got my money's worth out of that last machine. It took me 10 years to make hundreds and hundreds of bags and clothing and accessories and all kinds of things before I wore it out so much that the timing could no longer be adjusted. And I just bought a new machine. It was all right, because the cost was not so prohibitive that I couldn't afford a new just embroidery machine. And I still have some of the things, like the card writer and reader, that will work with this machine. I was very purposeful in looking for a machine that used some of the same accessories, like the same size bobbins and the same other things, like the little, like I said, like the little rewritable cards. There's two of the little rewritable cards, and they still work wonderfully with this machine. But this machine has an upgrade. It has, you can use a USB. You can take a pattern right from wherever you buy your patterns. I use Gran, and I have a membership into an embroidery pattern club. But you can, if you buy other stuff from her, like the stabilizers, you can get free embroidery patterns. The only stipulation is you can only put one at a time on here, and then you have to erase it and put a new one on to put it in the machine. So this machine, and I have an alphabet card in the slot right now, but this machine, you just very simply slip in the USB drive, and then touch a few buttons, and it is ready to go. So let me make some adjustments, and I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, I'm zooming you in here a little bit better so you can see what I'm doing. So I have my USB drive in there, and I'm going to select, there can be one pattern, and I need to download it. So I downloaded it earlier. I need to choose it and then download it, sorry. And then I need to adjust to make sure. I know that the size that I downloaded from the internet was a little bit smaller than I wanted it to be. So I'm going to choose size, and I am going to make it bigger, because the ones that I made before on the other machine were a tiny bit bigger. So now that I have that bigger, and I'm going to let it centered so I have extra fabric at the top and the bottom. I have not made this design before, so I'm not really sure if it's the one that will be the final one to go in that corner or not. We will see, but it was labeled Appliqué. It looked like an Appliqué block. So let's watch and see. After a little bit of a practice session, I'm back again. I should know better. Never ever try to embroider something and have it turn out when you haven't made the pattern ever before. I have a whole box of test patterns that I'm going to make into a quilt one of these days, and they're going to be the center of the blocks. So I'm taking a leaf pattern that you could let bare inside, but I have put fabric inside. So I need to trim this out with my applique scissors and then put it back on for another set of leaves. Be back in a minute after this is all trimmed out. Okay, let me show you. It trimmed it out pretty well with those scissors while it's still in the frame, so you don't have to move anything. Let's go back and put the other set of leaves. Now let me show you this before I trim it out. It's done the basic stitch it down stitch, and there's lots of threads on this pattern. So it has one more round to go, but this is where you trim the fabric when it's all tacked down. Here it is, still in its rough form. Let's finish this up. Okay, you've seen all done. It's a little bit bigger than the other ones, but they'll all be trimmed down to size. Now, here is where we take off the stabilizer. Let me show you the difference. This tearaway iron-on stabilizer comes off pretty nicely. It does stay in the stitched area, so it'll continue to strengthen that. Kind of like a super dryer sheet. And there it is, all gone. Some threads need trimmed, but it is all finished. Now, let's have a little discussion about, was it as fun as this? Took two patterns, the leaf pattern, and I had to decide where to put them, and the flower pattern was separate, so I had to decide where to put it. So it wasn't like thought free. I stuffed it in the machine and pressed go, and it did everything by itself. I mean, there are patterns you can do that with, but applique patterns on the embroidery machine are not that. And you still have to stay nearby in case a thread snags, your bobbin runs out, or the thread breaks, or you have to stay with it. When I first bought an embroidery machine, there weren't a lot of shows or YouTube videos to watch, and they were like, oh, and you just walk away and let it do its thing. No, it does not work that way. Never. It has never worked that way. So it looks very nice, but I think I liked the other machine applique better. I think it actually went faster with the other machine applique. And it was actually more fun because I had to use my brain more and be engaged more. Sitting watching the machine do the stitches isn't always so engaging, but I do like to put names in and do labels and words on things with the embroidery machine. So I hope you enjoyed. Next week we start on hand applique in its many various forms, and I see that Bear Paw is the Build-A-Block for Wednesday. Hope to see you then. Relax, enjoy, have a great time quilting. Thank you for watching. I've enjoyed your company.